When a person disappears, the chances of them being recovered alive dwindles with every hour that passes. In extreme cases, the person is found deceased, and investigators have to change their approach to the case. Unfortunately, not every case is straightforward, and some investigators dedicate their lives just to one case. Number 5. 32-year-old Olivia Lone Bear was a bright and vibrant young woman, and a proud member of the 3 affiliated tribes in North Dakota. Olivia devoted her life to her 5 children, and was the glue that held her family together. By 2017, Olivia and her children were living with her father in Newtown, North Dakota. All seemed to be going well for Olivia and her family. That was until one fateful October evening. It would take almost a year for answers to surface, and despite FBI involvement, her case remains unsolved. Born October 11, 1985, Olivia Lone Bear carried her indigenous heritage with pride. She'd spent most of her life around the 3 affiliated tribes and often partook in cultural ceremonies and events. By early 2017, Olivia and her 5 children were living with her father in Newtown. Little else is known about Olivia's life or how she came to be living with her father. According to Olivia's friends, she loved to sing, golf, go to music concerts, and play poker when her children were under the care of family members. October 24, 2017 started like any other day for Olivia. She got her children ready for school, ushering them into the car and making the short journey. That afternoon, the children returned home, and Olivia couldn't wait to hear what they'd gotten up to at school. Later that evening, Olivia headed to a bar on the 3 affiliated tribes reservation. For reasons that remain unknown, Olivia borrowed a pickup truck from a friend. Her father, Tex, assumed his daughter would not be drinking heavily that evening if she planned to drive. Before leaving for what would become the last time, Olivia kissed her children, telling them that she would be home before they knew it. When the sun rose on October 25, 2017, Olivia's father, Tex, was overcome with a sickly feeling. Olivia had not returned home, which was out of character. Olivia was wholly devoted to her children, and nothing would stand in her way of getting back to them. Tex immediately began calling Olivia's friends, asking if they had seen her, and that's when Tex obtained the first vital clue. Olivia had been seen driving the pickup truck around Newtown and the reservation that evening. So where was she? All calls to her phone went unanswered, and Tex's fears slowly became true. He now had the task of explaining to Olivia's 5 children that she likely wasn't coming home. On October 27, 2017, Tex Lone Bear officially reported his daughter missing to the 3 affiliated tribes police department. After receiving the report, the police also involved the FBI and the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Indigenous women are at a higher risk of disappearing than their counterparts, and the statistics of survival are bleak. The reservation was searched from top to bottom, with residents and loved ones coming out to aid in the search. Despite last being sighted driving the truck she had borrowed, Olivia had somehow vanished into thin air. Days after she disappeared, a witness came forward with stunning information. That evening, he and Olivia had exchanged several text messages. She informed him she was going to a bonfire and also had plans to go mudding. The last text Olivia sent to her friend were the words "goodbye" at 10:24 p.m. As investigators dove deeper into the case, they discovered more texts from the evening Olivia disappeared. At 10:37 p.m., Olivia exchanged texts with Adam Bangan, an ex-boyfriend. At 11:24, she accessed her Facebook account, and final activity came in at 11:38 p.m. All those close to Olivia were questioned at length, but nobody could provide any clues. Fast forward to July 31st, 2018. Almost a year after Olivia had disappeared. On July 31st, a volunteer crew piloting a boat equipped with sonar technology discovered a truck submerged in Sakakawe Lake, 1.5 miles from Olivia's home. The FBI and local authorities were informed of this discovery, and when they towed the truck from the water, they were stunned. Strapped into the passenger seat lay the body of Olivia Lone Bear. Investigators transported her body for an autopsy, but the coroner was unable to determine a cause of death. They were also unable to determine whether Olivia had drowned in the 20 feet of water, or whether she was already deceased when she was placed there. The discovery rocked the reservation, and since 2018, the 3 affiliated tribes' police and FBI have continued to investigate Olivia's case. The coroner found no obvious injuries or toxicological evidence to prove what happened to Olivia. Her father and the rest of her family continue to fight for answers. There's currently a $10,000 reward for information that leads to an arrest. Anyone with information is asked to contact 1-800-225-5324 or your local FBI office. Number 4. Patrice Andres of Cummings, Georgia, had the world at her feet. She was known around the community as a savvy businesswoman who had a wonderful son, Pistol, and a husband, Rob. Patrice had spent many years of her life saving up to purchase her own salon, and in the late 1990s, she did just that. With the help of her husband and friends, Tamber's Trim and Tan was soon in business. Residents of Cummings flocked to the salon, enticed by Patrice's magnetic personality. But one day, in April of 2004, would shake the small town forever. April 15th, 2004 started as a normal day for Patrice and her son. Her first appointment of the day was at 9 a.m., which was ample time for the driver's son to school, but for some reason on April 15th, the pair were running late. Pistol and Patrice argued as they got into the car, with Patrice apologizing profusely. Moments later, Pistol was at the school gates with his mother, shouting, "I love you." Patrice drove out of view, and this would be the last time that she was ever seen. Flustered, Patrice arrived at the salon somewhere before 9 a.m. to see her first client that was waiting for her. Not a moment later, the chair was ready, and Patrice had her scissors in hand. As Cummings was a small community, everyone knew everyone, and Patrice made the usual hairdresser small talk with her client. Just after 11 a.m., Patrice was done. At 11:10 a.m., Patrice's second customer of the day sat in the seat and waited for Patrice to work her magic. Those who knew Patrice described her as magnetic and energetic, but something seemed off. Patrice, who paid attention to detail, was distracted, almost on another planet. By 11:30 a.m., the second client of the day was finished, and Patrice gave herself a moment to recollect. Just as she began to find some peace, the phone began to ring. The full details of this call have never been released, but investigators believe it was not made by a client. At 11:35 a.m., another call came into Tamber's Trim and Tan. This customer also noticed Patrice's short and snappy demeanor, as if she was preoccupied with something. 13 minutes later, the phone rang again, but this time nobody answered. Patrice failed to show up at the salon that morning and into the afternoon, leaving some very confused and concerned clients. According to the FBI, who became involved with Patrice's case, they were the ones to raise the alarm of her disappearance after they found the otherwise busy salon barren. When the police arrived at the salon, they were met with a frightening sight. The cash register had been opened and empty, but no money had been taken from Patrice's purse. Her microwave dinner that she'd planned to heat up still sat in the microwave, waiting to be taken out. Even more bizarrely, her car keys and car were found at the salon, but investigators noticed one bizarre detail. Her car had been moved from its usual spot before the keys were returned. Naturally, investigators turned to Rob Andres as their first suspect, but there was no evidence to link him to the crime scene. In fact, the scene was barren. There were no fingerprints, footprints, or DNA to speak of. Witnesses recalled seeing a large black SUV and a white van near the Trim and Tan salon around the time that Patrice disappeared, but so far this has led nowhere. Rob Andres presented the police and the FBI with an airtight alibi, painting himself as a devoted and loving husband, but behind closed doors, things were not what they seemed. While Rob told the world that he adored his wife and supported her, those closest to the couple knew otherwise. Rob was allegedly possessive and cruel to Patrice. Their marriage had begun to unravel, and some believe that Rob took out his own wife. Searches for Patrice continued, but without any physical evidence or leads, the investigation dried up. On December 6, 2005, 600 days since Patrice disappeared, The case would take a stunning turn when her remains were found behind a church in Dawsonville, Georgia, in a remote part of the woods. Patrice had been found approximately 6 miles from her cherished hair salon. So who abducted her? Over the years, there have been several false confessions by notable serial killers, but investigators have never been able to create a solid case. The prevailing theory is that Rob took Patrice's life and then dumped her remains in the forest. Her son, Pistol, told the police his mother was well liked in Cummings, and he couldn't think of anyone that would want to harm her. Since the discovery of her remains, investigators have kept tight-lipped in the case, and it's now classified as a homicide. Patrice's case has received renewed attention thanks to the TV show Unsolved Mysteries, and anyone with information is asked to contact the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office at 770-781-2222 or the GBI at 800-597-8477. Number 3. Beth Ellen Vinson had a big heart and even bigger ambitions. From being a little girl, Beth Ellen had set her sights on being a dancer, performing in front of adoring crowds to loud orchestral music. Beth was incredibly talented and possessed all the skills a budding dancer would need. In 1994, Beth Ellen's journey was just getting started when it all fell apart. Decades later, the Vinson family are still desperately searching for answers. Being in a small town in North Carolina, Beth Ellen knew it would require hard work and tenacity to get to Broadway in New York. For many years, Beth Ellen had been enrolled at a professional dance school, and she showed exceptional potential. The Vinson home was crammed with trophies, ribbons, outfits, and outgrown ballet shoes. Those who knew Beth Ellen sensed something special inside of her, and they were waiting for her grand transformation. In July of 1994, Beth Ellen and her boyfriend, Rick Heath, made a rash decision. They upped and moved to Raleigh, North Carolina. Beth Ellen wanted a taste of the big city life and knew that it would be a stepping stone toward New York. At just 17, Beth Ellen displayed great tenacity, but living in the big city was not all it was cracked up to be for her. She quickly found herself swimming in debt and bills, barely making enough to cover rent. Wanting to use her dancing skills, Beth Ellen began looking for dancing gigs and stumbled across the other type of dancing. The owner of the escort company lured Beth Ellen in with the promise of good hours and even better pay. The allure of dancing was too much for her to resist, and by the end of July, Beth Ellen officially became an escort for a private service. Each night, Beth Ellen would receive a call from HQ instructing her on where to go. Once the dance was over, she collected her cash and went home to sleep. Rick and Beth Ellen were accumulating money, and the promise of New York was within their sight. In the early morning hours, Beth Ellen received a call from her employer, instructing her to go to the Innkeeper Motel. Beth Ellen slipped out of bed, donned her uniform, and kissed Rick goodbye for the last time. Hours later, the company Beth Ellen worked for received an angry phone call. The girl he had ordered had never arrived, and he wanted compensation. At around 5:30 a.m., the Raleigh Police Department was called to a car dealership just off of Capitol Boulevard near the motel. A white 1990 Mazda 626 was blocking the entrance to the car park, and a passerby felt that something was off. When investigators searched the car, they discovered it belonged to Beth Ellen Vinson. According to reports, the windows had been rolled down, the radio was playing, and one of her shoes was found in or near the car. Foul play was immediately suspected, and the Raleigh police set about notifying her family. Rick Heath, Beth Ellen's boyfriend, became the key suspect as he had been the last person to see her alive. To this day, no evidence has been uncovered to conclusively link Rick Heath to Beth's disappearance. The search for Beth Ellen continued until it came to a screeching halt on August 23, 1994. Between two factories lay Beth Ellen's body in a ditch. The coroner would later report at least 15 separate puncture wounds to her body. The Raleigh police were horrified by the case and vowed to find whoever did this to Beth Ellen. Rick and the client that she was due to see that evening have been interviewed at length, but no leads have surfaced. There's currently a $12,000 reward for information that leads to an arrest. Anyone with information is asked to contact the FBI at 800-634-4097 or the Raleigh Police Department at 919-890-3555. Number 2. 23-year-old Danielle Bertolini was the light of any room she walked into. Those who knew her best described the glow and aura that she shone around her. Danielle was kind, funny, and energetic, which garnered her a lot of friends. She was described as someone you couldn't forget. In 2014, Danielle's world came crashing down, and she decided to take drastic action. Just weeks later, Danielle was gone. Bangor, Maine is where Danielle and her family called home. As a teenager, she attended cheerleading classes and made a solid group of friends. When Danielle turned 20, she learned she was pregnant. While this hadn't been in her life plan, she was overcome with joy and excitement. Danielle's mother, Billie Jo Dick, was equally excited, and the two began making plans. Shortly into the pregnancy, Danielle's world was turned upside down. During a routine scan, Danielle was informed her baby, Xavier, had severe developmental issues and was not viable. With her mother at her side, Danielle went through the termination. According to friends, this is a moment that changed her forever, and Danielle was never the same. Danielle had struggled with substance misuse before, and the loss of her son triggered waves of depression and sadness. In 2014, Danielle was ready to leave her old life behind and start fresh. Her final destination was to be Humboldt County, California. This part of California is jam-packed with forests, parks, and trees, the perfect place for Danielle to find herself. In early January 2014, Danielle packed her bags and moved to California. According to friends, this move was the opposite of what she needed. Her behavior and misuse continued to run in a vicious cycle. She had taken to sofa surfing, staying with whoever would have her. Billie Jo knew her daughter had fallen in with the wrong crowd but was powerless to do anything about it. On January 29, 2014, Danielle called her mother and sister for what would become the last time. On January 30th, Billie Jo called her but received no answer. This was the first red flag for Billie Jo. As reported by NBC News on February 5th, Danielle was supposed to get a ride to Fortuna but never made it. When days passed without contact, Billie Jo contacted the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office to report her daughter missing. When the police department received the report, they were stunned. Just 3 days earlier, 38-year-old Sheila Franks had disappeared from the same area, and the two shared something in common. At this moment in time, the suspect has not been publicly named, but as per NBC, he was the last person to be seen with Danielle Bertolini and Sheila Franks. All attention was now placed on this mysterious man, but the investigations proved more difficult than usual. There was little evidence left behind at either crime scene, and neither woman had been in contact with their families since their disappearance. Search and rescue teams scoured the redwoods for any sign of the women, but the densely packed trees made for rough terrain. On March 9, 2015, a year after Danielle disappeared, the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office was alerted to a disturbing discovery. A resident was riding his ATV along Eel River when he noticed something in the water. It was a human skull. Investigators were able to use DNA and other forensic techniques to confirm that the skull belonged to Danielle. For Billie Jo and her supporters, this discovery was a small step to getting justice for Danielle. The coroner ruled the case to be a homicide, though no other details have been released. There are several people of interest in this case, including a man who was allegedly last seen with both Danielle and Sheila Franks. 2024 will mark 20 years since Danielle's life was cruelly taken from her. Investigators believe Danielle and Sheila may have fallen victim to a predatory serial killer stalking the roads of California. If you have any information on the case of Sheila Franks or Danielle Bertolini, you're asked to contact the Humboldt County Sheriff's Office at 707-445-7251. Or if you'd like to remain anonymous, 707-268-2539. Number 1. Between 1996 and 2011, a maniac roamed the streets of Long Island looking for victims. The press dubbed him the Long Island serial killer, a name that's become synonymous with evil and fear. While authorities state he was active between 1996 and 2011, the case of Tina Foglia may disprove this theory altogether. 19-year-old Tina Foglia of Long Island, New York, was your typical outgoing 1980s teenager. Hair metal and glam rock were on the rise, and teenagers gathered at events each weekend, hoping to get a glance at their favorite superstar. Tina was no different. She loved listening to metal and indie and loved to visit the local music bars in Long Island. Everything was perfect for Tina. That is, until she attended a gig on February 1st, 1982, and it was one that would be her last. On January 31st, 1982, Tina buzzed with excitement as she waited for the concert to start. The set would play on till the early morning hours, and Tina was ready to release some steam at the Hammerheads nightclub. Tina found herself a ride to the venue and danced and bounced around all night. Come 3 a.m., Tina and a horde of other sweaty metalheads poured out of the venue with adrenaline still pumping. The Foglia family car had already been spoken for, so Tina would need to take a ride there and back. It's believed that at around 3 a.m., Tina hitchhiked and got into the wrong car. When she failed to return home, her parents were suspicious. They began driving toward the venue but saw no sign of their daughter. Life for the Foglias came crashing down just 2 days after Tina was last seen. State highway workers working on an exit ramp on the Southern State Parkway made a disturbing discovery. The body of 19-year-old Tina Foglia had been hacked into pieces. Each part of Tina had been neatly placed in a plastic bag and scattered at the side of the road. The revelation of Tina's passing broke her family. Officers who attended the scene described it as one of the worst they had ever seen. Whoever did this to Tina was incredibly angry. Tina's parents confirmed she was a regular hitchhiker, and investigators began to question as many people as possible from the February 1st gig. Despite the brutality of this case, few leads have come to light. Tina's case is often overshadowed when talking about LASK or the Gilgo Beach killer. And while there's no evidence to conclusively link the two, there are striking similarities. In 2023, Rex Heuermann was named the Long Island serial killer. Years of experience and hard work had finally paid off, and LASK was off the streets. The case against Rex is still coming together as investigators have mountains of evidence to sort through. Rex had attended an initial hearing, and the trial is due to take place in late 2023 or 2024. Thanks to the advancements in DNA and genetics, investigators were able to link Rex's DNA to DNA found on his victims. Tina's family hopes that the same testing can be done on her case, finally solving it once and for all. There's much contention over whether Tina can be considered an LASK or Gilgo Beach victim. Tina's body was discovered years before investigators uncovered the mass burial sites. One psychologist even noted that the person who did this to Tina did this as a way to hide what he had done. Experts believe that the attack started out as a physical assault before he lost control. Tina's case is still being investigated by the FBI and the New York Police Department. The arrest of Rex Heuermann has turned the LASK case upside down, and now it's only a matter of time before more victims are found. If you have any information, you're asked to contact the New York State Police at 631-756-3300 or VICAP at 631-756-3392. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But my name is Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.